Hello everybody! It has been a very long time since my last video, and so it was time to do an update to just fill you in, those who watch my channel or those friends of mine on Facebook. Hello friends on Facebook. I thought that it was necessary, and I felt compelled to do a video today just to kind of fill in a little bit of what's been going on in my life. So the last video, I guess, was in, God, I don't even know, 5 months ago I think it was now, and it's been 5 months of complete and utter change. Everything has happened and nothing has happened at the same time. I've been doing quite a bit of organising and planning, and I've been doing all sorts of side projects, and well, the biggest piece of news I have is that I'm now officially in school. For some of you who may have watched some of my previous videos, I alluded to doing an application form for the Transformational Arts College down in Toronto in, I think it was started in October when I started putting that together. So in February, I went for what I thought was just to drop the application off. And that's quite a funny story in itself. I won't go into that right now, but suffice it to say, I went to drop my application off. I'd been working on answering questions, gaining letters from some amazing people. Thank you so much to those who contributed letters of support. And so I went down and spent a Friday going down to Lawrence and Yonge area to drop the application off. And as I'm sat in the office, suddenly it turns into an interview, and suddenly, very, very suddenly actually, I was told that I was accepted into the program. So, like, wow! It was quite a wonderful weekend treat that was, and especially afterwards, because after I went to Toronto to drop the application off and got into the program, I went to my spiritual group's annual winter gathering, Northern Lights gathering, and so it was a lovely weekend to have both the TAC acceptance, and then to go into a weekend of ritual with my spiritual group and the core elements of my spiritual group. So that was very exciting. You'll have to excuse me because I feel my nose is starting to get a bit runny. I've been being attacked by allergies at the moment, so it's not a fun thing. So yeah, so that's my biggest piece of news, is that I as of September, I am going to be starting a 2-year course to become a registered spiritual psychotherapist, which will not only lead me into a higher wage bracket, but also chance to be self-employed, and also to do work that I've been interested in doing since I was probably about 20. I just turned 30 last September, so it's been kind of a 10-year odyssey to get to where I am now, and 2 more years I'll be a very different person. I'll be a very changed person, and it's funny because I actually started doing these videos in preparation for that, because I had a strong suspicion that I would be accepted into the program. Not because of any ego, and I don't want people to feel that when they're listening to this. It was more of one of those, everything in my life was pointing towards me going in this direction, and just so I knew that even if I didn't get in, I would still pursue it, even if I didn't get in right now. You know what I mean? So that was powerful. And so starting these videos, it was part of that process of preparing myself for a 3-year adventure of discovering myself. Because anybody who's going into a field where you're going to be intensely helping somebody else or guiding somebody else through their own process of self-discovery, of healing, you have to go through your own process of self-discovery and healing, and it's a never-ending process, right? So I'm very excited about that. In September, I'll be starting. I think there are 2 weekends of courses. So how the course is laid out is it's a weekend based course, so it's either 2 weekends or 1 weekend a month, depending on what it is. There's a lot more weekends to start with, and then as the year progresses, there's a lot less. So, and intermixed with that will also be my own psychotherapy, one-on-one with a counsellor, and group therapy as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little nervous as well, if I must be honest. I'm a little nervous about what sort of things will come out and come up, and if I'll have the strength to work through those. But if the past few years have been any indication of that journey that I've been on, then I think I'll be okay. I know I will be a very different person in 2 years' time, and I'll probably be watching these videos, looking back on myself and seeing who I am now. And so, I'm looking forward to being able to love myself as I am now in 2, 3, 10, 15 years' time. So apart from that, the summer has been going very well. I opened up my campground spot a few weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago, and I've been enjoying that since. And so let me go back a little bit. So back in I think January it was, I was contacted by some friends who are organising a pagan festival down near London, and they had a spot open on their committee, and they asked if I would be interested in joining and helping out the committee. So I said, okay, well, why not? I have a few ideas of what we could do. So I ended up joining the committee, becoming part of the committee, and due to some circumstances, I ended up taking on several portfolios from another committee member who was having a hard time at home, dealing with things in their life, like life happens, right? So over the past 5 months, I've been working with the committee, and 2 weekends ago, a week and a half ago, so not this past weekend, the weekend before that, we ended up we had the festival. And although it was a smaller turnout than last year's, it was such a lovely weekend. It was a very interesting weekend, because I put myself out of my comfort zone, and I actually organised and led the main ritual, which I've never done before. I've never done a large-scale ritual for a whole group of people before. Last year at Four Winds Festival, I was invited to do the opening ritual for everybody, and that was that was something I normally do in my own practice anyways. I did a puja to open up the festival, and it went very well. I thought it was interesting for me back then to do a puja for a larger group, because I'm so used to just doing it for myself. So this year I put myself even more out of my comfort zone, and I ended up doing a water ritual, organising a water ritual for a group of, I think there was about 20 to 25 people in the group, and it was lovely. I don't mean to toot my own horn, because certainly there were things about it that I think I could change in the future, but it was such a moment of I can't even really describe it, right? It was going through the process of organising it. I could have gone one of two ways. I could have completely written a script and just stuck to the script and it being very boring and flat. But I wanted to open it up and make it as participatory as possible. And I took a lot of inspiration from the guidelines put out by Isaac Bonewits when it comes to creating public rituals of everybody having a part, everybody feeling ownership in the ritual. And so I ended up creating a ritual where I asked everybody to bring a sample of water from their local river system or pond or stream or fountain, and bring that to the ritual site down in south of London there. And the basic idea was unity. So we were doing a mystery play about the creation of the waters of the world, how they all came from space and were placed into the world. And how I did that was every single participant played either a role of a star. We had individuals who brought water with them would represent or stand in for a river system, or the pond of a stream, or the water source that they brought with them. And the night before, a friend of mine conducted the women's ritual, and they chose out of the group of women who went to the women's ritual somebody who would stand in as the moon and who would hold water that they had been using in that ritual. And I invited everybody who brought water to come in and proclaim themselves as if they were that water source, and then to pour that water into a central cauldron. So at the end, we had waters from Ontario. A friend of mine brought some water back from the River Ganges over in India, which was fantastic. I brought some from my stream, from the spring at home here, and we ended up collecting water from Lake Erie. A friend of mine went down to Lake Erie and collected water from there. And so at the end, we had all of the water in the central cauldron, and I invited everybody to come into the center to wash their hands, to feel the water, to take some with them to go home, either to pour that water back into their local river system or their water source, or just to hold as water that was imbued with the energy of this group. And it was such a moment where everybody came from all parts of the circle, and it wasn't orderly. It was very disorderly, but it had such an order to it. It was very chaotic. It was chaotic order, if that makes any sense. So it was a very beautiful ritual, and having gone through that experience, being one of my first times doing a ritual like that, it was very gratifying for me that not only in the moment did the words flow, like water, but that I could do this, that I could organize a ritual for a group of people, and especially not being part of that community, because I last year was my very first time at this festival, and then my friends who organized the festival wanted me to help out this year. So not knowing many of the people in that circle from down there, all I did was place on Facebook, this is what we're doing. If you can bring some water with you for the ritual, that would be amazing. And so many people did, and it was such a it was a remarkable moment. It was very nice. So I really enjoyed that. It was a bit strange though, because Ontario at the time had a major storm come through, and it flooded many towns in Midwestern Ontario and Southern Ontario here. So I imagine I'm down there in Ridgetown, and it's kind of overcast some days. It's nice. It's not rainy all the weekend. So my brother, who was in Mexico at the time, who was at a wedding down there, texted me and said, I've heard about the flooding up there. Is everybody okay? And I'm looking around, and I'm looking at the sky, and I'm thinking to myself, flooding? What flooding? It was only after I came home that I realized and found out that several towns about half an hour away from here were hit very badly, and some of the rivers overflown into the towns. So maybe the water ritual was a little too much, maybe. But everybody's okay, it seems, so that's good. So that was powerful. I started being... Where was I going with that? Yes, so organizing. So that was a really interesting experience to go through, to work on a committee to organize a festival like that. Because previously all last year I'd been organizing Slanja 2016, and I was the primary person involved in organizing that, and I was liaising with people who would be coming in, and partners who were coming to teach and facilitate in that. So to then go from that primary role of organizing to a different role where it's a committee, and everybody has their own parts, and everybody is responsible for their own bits. It was very interesting, and I learned a lot from it. I also ended up designing the booklets, which, although they weren't perfect, it showed to me at least that I was able to do it. So really going out of my comfort zone and doing something I'd never really done before, which was it was powerful. It was a good experience to go through. So out of that, I was asked back in, I think, February, no, March. I was asked back in March if I would be interested in working on another committee, forming a convention. It's not a festival, it's a convention called Occulticon, happening at Mythwood Campgrounds coming up in September. And so I've been working as the vendor coordinator, organizing a psychic fair and organizing the vendors market. And it's been, that in itself has been a really amazing experience to go through, because I'm working with people who I both admire, respect and love very much, but also to create something brand new that nobody has ever done in Ontario. Ontario tends to have like the pagan festivals, which are very there's a certain culture of pagan festivals, of how they are operated, how the flow of the schedule usually is. Usually there's certain hallmarks that differentiate a pagan festival from other festivals. And then you've got the New Age festivals, which have a very different culture as well. And so Occulticon is looking at the occult community and looking at all the different hidden societies and fraternities and occult groups that are out there, including the New Age, shamanism, neo-paganism, druidry, and this and that, all these amazing and interesting streams of thought. So that's been very interesting to be involved in that, and it's going to be a very interesting weekend, because we have some very well-known speakers coming, speakers who are talking on things I've not really heard much about. So I'm very interested in, if not being able to listen to their lectures, at least chatting with them on what they do and how they do it. So that's coming up in September, so we're in the middle of organising that. I've been working a lot with Mythwood over the past couple of weeks. Well, not really. I've been there was a bit of a medical issue in my family, and so I haven't had a chance to really get to Mythwood for over the past 4 weeks. But this past weekend I ended up going out for a night and hanging out with my pagan peeps, as I like to call them, and it was a lovely weekend. So 2017 is looking and shaping up to be a year of beginnings, a lot of beginnings, a lot of things starting to happen, a lot of things that started many years ago when I first planted seeds in my life, and these are really starting to come to fruition. A few years ago when I started that business, the Esotericon, I started to intentionally put seeds into my life of what I would want, and I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. It's one of those, and I used to say it was like a string of pearls. Each pearl was connected to the last one. So going through that and intentionally putting things out there of where I would want to go, and I realized that although at times it seems like opportunities have just kind of come to me, what I've learned and what I need to appreciate is that no, they aren't just coming to me randomly, that I have been working and building up to these opportunities, that they have been there because of all my work, what I've done before that, my self-work, working on my career and my life and where I want to go. Like for example, if I hadn't started doing the TAC courses at the Hiving Grove in Kitchener in 2015, I would never be sitting here now just about to be ready to start in September to do spiritual psychotherapy. I'd probably be a very different person right now. Just the same with Tribal Hearth. If I hadn't started vending at that first Hearth fire that I went to, I'd never be sitting here now having a trailer at Mythwood Campground, being involved with organising Occulticon, and having met so many incredible people. So it really has been a summer of change, yes, a summer of beginnings, but no endings, which I'm curious about. You know, everything's kind of almost alchemically shifting into new substances. So it's been interesting. Some things from my personal life. So I've started, well, about 6 months ago, I think it was. I posted on Facebook that I didn't really know much about Druidry, and I was interested in possibly learning a bit more, because I realized that I thought I knew more than I actually did, and so that really that bothered me, that I didn't know more about this, because it is, you know, it's part of my heritage, it's part of the spiritual landscape of my homeland. And I was also very blessed with the fact that when I placed that onto my Facebook, I had so many people respond, and these are people who've been practicing Druidry for years and years and years, from various different groups, so from the ADF, from OBOD, from all of these different groups. So I've slowly been kind of focusing on learning things that I thought I knew that I didn't know. And not saturating myself, but just kind of laying down the frameworks. And so I started listening to the Druidcast, which was an incredible thing to listen to. And I think I listened to the entire Druidcast. There's about 125, 130 episodes right now. Druidcast is the official podcast of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, based out of the UK, down in Lewes, which is remarkable actually, because it's very close to where, or the headquarters is very close to where I used to work when I was in East Sussex about in 2010, and I didn't know they were there, so it's interesting. But yeah, so I started listening to this podcast and learning more about Druidry, which is something I feel like I feel like there's something there for me, and it's a tradition that I can embrace fully. It's not one of those traditions where it isn't a part of my cultural heritage. It's not like it's a tradition where it's not part of my ethnic background. It very much is, and so many people in my life who practice Druidry have been quite inspirational for me. So that's been quite exciting. Apart from that, really not much is going on. I mean, well, all of that is very busy to begin with, but yeah, I've been intensifying my personal studies into various aspects of spiritual traditions that I thought I knew but I didn't know, and also realizing how many people I know who are connected or who are big names in the community, and being new to the community of only 2 years ago, when I meet somebody, generally, at least before, I didn't know who they were, and I thought, oh, they're cool, they're interesting people, and then afterwards finding out who they actually are, and feeling quite starstruck, so it's been quite interesting. Anyways, I've rambled on for 23 minutes. I'm going to let you all go, so thank you for watching my update. I don't know how regularly I'm going to be keeping this, but I've officially revamped my website, so it's esotericon.ca. That's my official website of me, Ben Stimson. There I have a blog on there that I've been updating regularly. I have links to my video page, links to my Facebook page, links to all sorts of different things. I realized that if I'm going to become a psychotherapist, then I start to need to brand myself and to put myself out there, and especially for some of the other things that I'd like to do in spiritual teaching and spiritual coaching, it's important that people know who I am. So this is what these videos are for. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the summer. If I don't update, it's probably because I'm enjoying myself out there. If you can see, I've got a little bit of a tan there, which has been from the last weekend, and it's been very nice. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful summer, and we will see you when we see you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.